UFC 269, we have Pedro Munhoz versus Dominick Cruz. And this fight is incredible, and I think it's flying under the radar a little bit. Before we get into it, guys, remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video if you do enjoy it, guys. Leave a comment below, get discussion going. Last few videos done quite well. Really enjoying it, guys. Let's get into it. Alright, well, the main points of this are Dominick Cruz and his movement. Can Pedro Munhoz solve the puzzle of Dominick Cruz's movement? Only 3 people ever have. And 2 of his losses are in his last 3 fights, ever. So Dominick Cruz is the elite of the elite, especially in this division. He is arguably the GOAT of bantamweight. So, you know, Dominick Cruz to me is a real special athlete. He looked vulnerable, if I'm honest, against Casey Kenny. Casey Kenny is a very good up-and-comer. He is no means a top 5. He's an excellent judoka. He has great movement and great striking, especially his left hand. Casey Kenny, he was popping Dom with that quite a lot, and he was trying to implement the same game plan Cejudo had against Dominick Cruz, which was kick the legs, slow him down. The most impressive victory I've seen against Dominick Cruz was Cejudo. I think it was stopped way too early, and that was where all the beef was with Keith Peterson. You know, Dominick Cruz said he could smell alcohol and cigarettes on his breath because Dominick Cruz was not knocked out. He was getting up, he was holding on to him. You know, he was just trying to survive a little bit, but he was making his way to his feet. And Keith Peterson's excuse was I wasn't protecting himself. If you watch back the fight, you can't protect yourself as you're climbing up a human. You haven't got a third arm to hold your hand up there. So Dominick Cruz said it's nonsense. He was awake the whole time. You could see it. So bit of a stupid stoppage, but I saw that fight going one way. He was landing a lot of success against someone like Cejudo, who we know as well is a very special individual. So Dominick Cruz is not out of it. Dominick Cruz is still an elite level fighter. He really is. Losing to Cody Garbrandt in the way he did was special by Cody. I don't know how Cody pulled that one out, because since then Cody's been a shadow of his former self. Against Hassan Sawi looked good, but other than that, you know, his last loss to Rob Font, I don't know what happened to him. He kind of like just switched his button off and just marched forward, plodded along, used no movement, didn't do anything Cody does, and it really surprised me. So Dom, with his movement, can really punish here. A very static, and I would say a very slow starter in Pedro Munhoz. Let's get into Pedro. So Pedro last fought Jose Aldo. Before that, I think Jimmy Rivera. He lost to Aljo. And Frankie Edgar in a really... I thought he won that Frankie Edgar fight, to be honest with you, but it was close. So we're kind of seeing the level Pedro Munhoz is on. I really like Pedro Munhoz, and if you guys have seen my videos before on Pedro, I believe he is a top contender in this division, but I don't see him beating Dominick Cruz here, and I'll explain why. Mainly because, well, it's pretty much the movement, because the movement of Dom Cruz, you have to also be on your bike the entire time, and the game plan to stop it is either catch him really well, which, how many people have ever done that? You know, you can count on one hand. Or you kick his legs out from under him. Pedro Munhoz is not a great kicker. He can kick. Before anyone says it, I've seen him low kick, I've seen him cock. Yes, he can kick. Aldo showed how you kick. Aldo would be a good match for Dom Cruz. I think someone like that, someone with a speed advantage. Dominick Cruz has a speed advantage, a massive speed advantage over Pedro Munhoz. He has a crazy advantage in movement, pretty much over anyone, but especially Munhoz. As I'll refer to it again, he's kind of a plodder, marches forward a little bit, hands up, very Muay Thai but without the legs, so a bit higher guard than you would in boxing. He doesn't like to look over the gloves, he likes to look, you know, gloves high. Likes to block with his forearms a lot more than shoulders. He takes a lot of punishment, Pedro, as well, which in a 3-round fight like this, Dominick Cruz is going to adore, because he's just going to be on his bike, peppering with shots, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, and then when Pedro gets clipped by the 1-2 and he doesn't keep moving, there comes the 3rd and the 4th, and that's what Dom does, and he sits you down. Dominick Cruz is so impressive in these sort of fights. I don't see any other way that this fight goes. Pedro obviously could catch him. He has absolute savage hooks. He loves a hook. When you saw him against Cody, Cody and him sat in the pocket, and they just and Pedro was like, well, I know I can knock you out. He got caught with one shot. He hit Cody back with an equal shot, and his chin could not take the same power. Pedro is very Cody Garbrandt-esque as close as a comparison I can give him. I really like Pedro. I definitely think he can win this fight. I'm not saying that at all. But if I was placing my bets down, and I will be, Dominick Cruz is the first name on my sheet here because it's just an obvious choice to me. I don't think it's going to be finished either. I think it will be a decision. I think it'll be a 3-round decision. I do think Dominick Cruz is slowing down a lot in this stage of his career, as you saw from the Casey Kenny fight. But what we also saw from that fight is he's still got it. And Casey Kenny versus Pedro Munhoz here would be a real tight contest for me to call as well. So I kind of just go with Dom Cruz. But let me know, guys, what you think is going to happen. Do you think Dom Cruz is just going to out-footwork him, out-point him, jab his face off, and then hit him with a counter right when Pedro tries to counter his jab? Because that's what I believe is going to happen. Let me know, guys. If you are new to the channel, guys, remember to subscribe, like the video if you have enjoyed it, comment below, share it around. We'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys.